Good morning. Welcome to the OU Medicine web chat. I'm April Sandifer, and today I have the great honor of spending the next 30 minutes chatting with Dr. Michael Talbert. Dr. Talbert is chairman of the Department of Pathology at the University of Oklahoma College of Medicine, but today he's going to be wearing his athlete hat, and we will be talking all things marathon. Good morning. Welcome.
Well, thank you, April. It's exciting to be here. It's exciting to be approaching marathon time. This is one of the really fun times. It's an amazing event. Runner's World magazine, which is one of the largest circulation running magazines, has put the Oklahoma City Marathon in the 12 must-do events for marathons.
That's great. I didn't realize that. But I want to talk about this week before the marathon and what that means to training, but I first want to talk just a little bit of your background, because we're not here to talk about pathology. We're going to talk about the marathon, and you have run numerous marathons, but also super marathons, I guess you'd call them. Tell me about that.
So I've been doing running at the marathon and beyond marathon level for a good part of my life, and have competed in events up to 100 miles, and sometimes over roads, sometimes over trails, and it's been a fun thing. I enjoy getting out. A lot of it's the camaraderie that we have, and it's also fun to be in shape.
Let me ask, I've always wanted to ask you this ever since I heard that you ran super marathons. How does someone get to a point, do you wake up one morning and say, 26.2 miles is just not far enough, I want to run 50 or I want to run 100? How does someone get to that point?
So I grew up in Southern California, Los Angeles area, and would regularly go to the Sierra Nevada mountains and go backpacking and such like that. And I always thought it'd be fun to see if you could run across the Sierra Nevada mountains in one day. And it turned out in, I don't know, I think I was in college at the time, I saw a special on Sports Illustrated about a race where you could actually do that. A one-day race where you would cross the Sierra Nevada mountains. And at that point I decided, gee, that's what I want to do. Now it took some years to do it. School is pretty busy, medical school is busy, residency training very busy, but after that is when I decided that this was the time to train up and do it. And so that's really what got me into the very long running. And the very long running also involves training of distances that might be marathon and beyond. You might go out and run 30 miles. In fact, when I was doing a lot of the longer distance running, it was not unusual to get a call on a Thursday night or a Friday morning from friends somewhere in the state saying, hey, we're going to go out to so-and-so and go exploring. And we might go out and run 25 or 30 miles and do it as a sort of a fun thing. Now again, it's not flat out running, and you just get out there and try to enjoy yourself, much like your friends might call you up to go for a hike.
That's pretty mind-boggling for someone who would never ever be able to be at that point. And that's something that's important to think about for training for a marathon, even the 26.2, which is not an insignificant amount of distance, but training is a big commitment of your time. I mean, you've got to be able to run long runs on the weekends, and I mean, it's not something just everybody can do to set aside that kind of time.
Well, there's a lot of different approaches, and there's many training programs that are available. Some are designed for people with limited time, and obviously, if you go out, and I hope on marathon day, I see a lot of you out there on the course, either running or watching. There are a lot of people out there who are novices. I mean, they've not run these distances. They don't have a long-term commitment to the sport, and they're doing it on relatively limited mileage, or they've just committed to, okay, I'm going to do these kinds of things. And it really depends. I mean, the elite athletes are training remarkable amounts and going distances that would boggle the mind, and some of them are doing well over 100 miles a week. Others will do much less, and quite frankly, I can't do 100 miles a week. I never have been able to. My body will break down, and I'll be walking around with crutches or something like that. And so for myself, it's been maybe 40 miles a week, or bump it up to 50 or 60 around a marathon if I want to run hard. On the other hand, a lot of the people out there are just out there for a good time. I will be out there for a good time on Sunday. I'm not going out there to to run for a time or anything like that. I'm going to look for friends. I'm going to look for people I know. I'm going to watch the people along the course. I'm out there for the experience because it's a really amazing experience.
Well, and I'm kind of going out of sequence because I want to talk about what this last week before the marathon means in terms of training, but that's such a big deal to me is the day of the marathon, actually being out there, and especially for the people who have never run one before, that first year you go out there, if you can remember to embrace the day, the experience, the people on the sidelines, high five the kids, and you are going to have such a more enjoyable experience and something that you'll want to do again, I hope, and just incorporate into your life. And again, our marathon is more, and I've run other marathons they're great experiences, but ours is significantly different because of the meaning behind it, and you feel that when you're out there.
Oh yes, I mean it's an amazing community experience. It's in Oklahoma City that you won't feel just driving along the highway or something like that. The whole community comes out and it's amazing, and you get the sense that everybody out there wants you to finish, and it's really neat that way.
Yeah, the people that are walking, that are at the end of the trail, are being cheered for just as much as the elite athletes at the beginning, and it's really, it moves you. It's humbling. It's an experience you can't really understand, I guess, until you really try it. So.
And you go through phases because you'll be out there, and at some point you'll be passing people who start at 4 o'clock in the morning to walk, and amazing commitment there. You'll be out with people who are you'll see wheelchair athletes. Later on, towards the finish, you usually come on to the firefighters who are out there in full gear, and sometimes it's hot out there. And they're out there, they march the half marathon, and you'll catch up with them at the towards the end. And I mean, what an amazing feeling that one can have. And then there's nothing like coming down that finish chute. I mean, it's just wall-to-wall people, and everybody's cheering, and they're calling out your name when you cross the finish line. And then what's really cool is there's always celebrities handing out medals at the end.
Right.
Sam Presti, some famous Sooner coaches. I mean, it's really kind of a neat thing to come through, and then it's like a party at the end. I mean, and that's
who doesn't love a party?
Another reason not to get all beat up out there while you're running.
Right. Well, let's backtrack a little bit and talk now about, it is a week before the marathon, and if you're running it at this point, you're ready to go. But maybe more for the people that are running, maybe this is they're checking something off their bucket list, this is their first year to run, but what does this week mean in terms of training? Are they out there doing any more running?
The training is done. You've got your miles in the bank and you're ready to go. I mean, you should get out and do something this weekend. It really depends on the amount of mileage you've done and what you know about yourself. I'll run some during this coming week. I have a certain sort of plan that I typically follow. It is a taper time. You're trying to let your body get back into shape, and depending on your level of experience, you may go out there and do a couple of pickups or something like that to experience the race pace. The other thing you'll find is that as you dial back on your miles, your body gets sort of anxious and nervous, and you'll start thinking, gosh, my foot hurts today, and all these weird things will start happening to you, and that's just something to expect. You don't want to completely overeat. You don't want to go out and do something different. Don't use the extra time not running to go clean out the garage or plow a field or something like that. You don't want to go in with sore muscles or something like that, but really dial back on the activity. The other thing I think it's important to do is get plenty of sleep, watch your food intake, and then plan out your marathon day. I mean, for instance, go online. They're going to have a special way that you get into the corrals for the start. Make sure you understand that you're not running around race morning looking for where you're supposed to be. Figure out where you're going to park.
That morning. You need to
fix all that stuff out. Make sure you've dialed in what you're going to wear. Have all the little pieces laid out. If you put a Band-Aid on someplace because you rub there, have that all set up. It should be just an easy thing. Have it all planned out, know what you're going to do. Don't be scrambling around Saturday night worrying about those things. Go to the expo. It's a lot of fun. You'll get more energy, but don't spend the whole day on your feet on Saturday. Put your feet up, enjoy it.
I always hear about carb loading on Saturday. Is that really a thing? Because if that's a thing, I pretty much carb load on a daily basis, so that I would think I'm ready to run a marathon all the time.
So most runners have a relatively carb-rich diet, although there are exceptions to that. I mean, I wouldn't go out and eat a massive meal of spaghetti the night before the marathon. I mean,
But that some people, they say to do that.
well, I will have pasta Saturday
Yeah.
night, but
Okay.
it won't be a massive meal. I'm not sort of loading myself, so to
Okay.
speak. I mean, the carbohydrate loading was a term used years back where you'd actually deplete yourself and try to overfill your carbohydrate stores. I mean, I have specific things I do that I know will sort of fill my stores to where they should be, but one thing you don't want to do is overdo it before you get out there. And quite frankly, it really depends on the pace you're going to run. I mean, we've got, all of us, even thin people, have plenty of fat on board to burn. You'll be consuming some calories along the way, so it's not a critical thing. Think through what you're going to do the morning of. I personally have breakfast. I eat my normal breakfast. I get up about 4 o'clock, I'll have my normal breakfast. And that just works for me. But hopefully that's what you've practiced on your long runs. I mean, again, part of the reason to do the long runs is you're acclimating your body to going for those times, but also is just to go through your whole routine and see what works for you. Does it work for you to drink sport drinks, or do you have to have water because the sport drinks upset your stomach? Can you take gels? Can you have something else that will help you along the way?
Do you have tips along that you, what is your system along the route? Because I've had a woman that I used to run with that has done a lot of long distance running. She swears by every other water stop she'll have water, then she'll have Powerade, then she'll have water, then she'll have Powerade, and that works for her. Is there any reason to do that, or like you said, just whatever your body's used to?
Part of it's what your body's used to, what you've trained and done. I sort of drink to thirst more than, I was much more regimented. If it's a hot day, I'll drink more, and I'll start earlier and think more about it. Right now, the forecast I checked this morning suggests that we're going to have just about a perfect day for the non-elites, which will be in the 50s, and perhaps we'll hit 60 by the end of the race, so that'll be just about right. Of course, we can get wind here, and the long-range forecast may not be correct, but for myself, I'll drink to thirst, and I'll have roughly a gel an hour, but that's what I've done for years, and it works for me. And I sometimes feel that if I feel like I'm really hitting the wall or something like that, I might have an extra gel, and I typically will carry 1 or 2 on my body.
When you get out there, I know part of it, you need to push yourself. You get to the wall, you need to keep pushing yourself, but there's also a point where you need to listen to what your body's saying, right? I mean, you can't just ignore it. Not all of it's just pushing through something. I mean, what are the things that you might need to watch for that would mean, well, maybe it's time to walk or even step out?
Well, certainly, if you're getting a pain that's increasing or something like that, you need to figure out what's going on, and that may be something that gets you out of the event. For things like an upset stomach, sometimes walking will help that. If you have a cramping, I've had enough experience to where I've got certain things I will try, but that may be something that gets you out of the race as well. But a lot of the times just backing off a little bit will help you feel better, and no matter what, it's a long way, unless you're an elite athlete, and elite athletes are hurting, but it's a different experience for them. You'll go through low points. I mean, you just can't help it. And part of the reason to get out there with all those people along the route and also run with other people is that you're helping each other. I mean,
well, and in training where you might, especially if you're running by yourself or just maybe with 1 or 2 people, you might hit those walls stronger. But like you said, when you're out there and you're caught up in the environment of the people and the energy, sometimes you just don't even realize that you've gone so far, and you can keep going much easier.
Right, and that's actually one of the things that I find helpful is, so you're going to line up, there's going to be all these people, it's going to be very exciting, there's going to be announcements, they're going to sing, we'll have all kinds of neat things happening, there'll be almost 3 minutes of silence. There's a second for every person that was killed in the bombing, and you'll go, and it's just an amazing feeling. It's very emotional. Like most of the people tear up during that time. And then you'll start the race. You've been standing there for maybe 45 minutes or an hour, and everybody goes out just crazy. Try your hardest, back off, run the pace you want to run, and actually it's going to be a little bit slower than what your target pace should be. That's what you should discipline yourself to do. I can't. I try, but it's really hard. I'm going to try especially hard this time. And then what you really want to do is just sort of enjoy the course as we go up Lincoln, and we'll go through the neighborhood. You'll start seeing people. There'll be bands out there. But you really want to go through about the first almost half of the race and just not even really think about it. You're out there, it's a run with your friends. And you're going to eventually settle into your race pace, and you're going to be thinking about how's my body doing, monitoring those things, looking around for your friends. And the real, to me, the real effort starts when you hit the lake, Lake Hefner, and particularly when you turn around and come back into the wind. Usually there's a south wind, and you're going to come into that.
Hefner, yeah.
And again, but there's huge numbers of people. The other thing that's going on is there's a relay race going on, and every time you hit a relay transfer point, there's probably 1,000 people there, and they're all cheering and running. And so you get this incredible boost each time you hit a station like that. My wife's usually on the course. I'll see her typically around mile 17 and a half. She'll be out there, and I'm like, yes, and I always look for her, and that's just another
little boost. It's nice to have something, someone to look for.
I'm looking for, and that's actually where I start feeling it for the first time, because I've gone through that long stage of where I've sort of dissociated, and it's just a nice weekend run with a lot of people. And then you come along the lake and you start getting a little bit, starting to feel it. And so it's nice for that lift. Then you come down Grand Boulevard, which is always spectacular, lots of people, and back down through across 63rd, always a huge crowd there. That's always nice. And then you hit Classen, which is, I don't know, many times it's the hardest part of the race. It's the 20s. That's where the real race occurs in terms of how are you going to do, and that's where you really got to bear down. I'll always see my wife around mile 22. She'll be out between 21 and 22, and so that's always another pickup that I'm looking for. And then you go into the neighborhoods, and by that point you've got huge crowds out, and you're going to make that final little stretch and come down the home piece. But it's you really just have to settle in. It's just a nice long run up to somewhere around mile 13, 15, 16, and past 20, it's going to be hard. But you know what? Everybody out there is having that moment. Whether you're an elite athlete, that's where the race is determined, or a novice out for your first run. And if you've done the training, you'll do fine. And if you're not feeling particularly good, just back off a little bit, and it'll work out.
Well, this is just a great time just to give a little plug for the volunteers and the people that are out at the water stops, and that do just come out just to watch how important they are. They just cannot even imagine. If they've not run it, they don't realize how important they are to the race. They really, being out there at that point, especially down the south class, and you're getting towards 23rd, and you're just about losing it for someone like me especially. Those people are critical to me to keep going. So we appreciate you so much. Let's talk, before I go into that, when you get done with the race, I mean, you mentioned there's, it's kind of like a big party, and it's great, but you don't want to just stop. I mean, you need to take care of your body, right? And get some stretching in. And
so I immediately work on rehydrating. There's a lot of food and drink at that point. I'm always also pulling in calories very quickly and trying to work immediately on recovery. It's about a block-long area of food and stuff like that you can walk through, which is kind of nice. You walk, keep moving, come out the back. That's where you meet your whoever's out there, if they're out there. And then I like to try to keep moving, and ideally walk for I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, just to allow your body to come back down to earth. It really depends. I mean, sometimes I'm bent over, I'm on my knees, going like this, and it's it's a challenge just to walk through the finish area. But that it's probably best to allow your body to settle back in, but immediately start the rehydration and the calories coming in, as long as your stomach can handle it.
Yeah, I'm always ravenous at that point, and being a vegetarian and going by the burger
Those
stand,
burgers, yes.
it just kills me. So one time a year, I really want to just bite into a big old burger, and I don't do it. So, stepping back, or maybe forward, is people that have maybe gone out and watched and helped, and they, or this is their first marathon, or they thought about it, but they didn't quite get to that point, or start the day after the marathon, they start thinking, well, maybe next year I want to do that. They're inspired by everything that's been going on around them. What, especially for somebody who's maybe never taken on something like that, what would you suggest for them to start thinking about getting to that point? Maybe they start training slowly and try a few 5Ks, or what do you suggest?
I think the best thing, if one wanted to sort of put their big toe in the water or something like that, would be to either join one of the local running groups, or go to some of the running shops, running specific shops, and they'll have groups and teams that they form around the shops, and they'll have training runs, and you can get an idea of, what is it like, and what events might be nice for you. Ideally you would slowly build up to a marathon. Not everybody does that. I mean, it'd be nice to have 5 years of experience doing shorter distances and get the mileage on your body, but not everybody does that. Some people just decide, well, this year I'm running a marathon,
Yeah.
and they'll go up and train up for it and go and do it. Now again, you may not be going for a world record time, but you're out there for the experience.
Right.
I mean, I'm obviously past my best times in terms of competitive times, but I'm mostly out there for the experience now. And I will decide when I want to be competitive, and I might go for age group things, but it's a lot different now. It's more the experience, and sometimes
Sure.
I'll just go out and maybe run with somebody else or get a small group together, and that can be fun.
I know that some people end up, they're training and they end up with an injury, and I'm actually speaking from firsthand experience, because this year as I was training, I did end up with a stress fracture that has put me in a boot and supposedly keeping me out of the race this year. But what are some, I know you're not an orthopedic surgeon, but are there some things you can suggest that would help someone not crash and burn like that? Because it's so hard when you've trained and then you have an injury that keeps you out of it. And two, my doctor doesn't necessarily think it was just that I overtrained because I really didn't do anything different than I'd done in the past, but maybe it was more of a dietary thing too, not feeding my bones what they needed. So any pearls of wisdom about that?
Sure. Running's a stress, and essentially you're stressing your body, and your body ideally recovers and gets stronger. And the key is to build in enough of that recovery that allows your body to get stronger through your training. And if you're starting out from almost no running, or a couple of 2-mile runs every week, it's obviously a much more gradual process, as opposed to someone who's going from 40 miles a week to 60 miles a week. And there's old rules of thumb, like no more than 10% increase in your mileage in a week, no more than two miles on your long run. But really, it comes down to monitoring your own body. Obviously, diet's important, your own injury history. There are some people who probably shouldn't run long distances because their bodies will break down. I personally know that up to about 50 miles a week, I'll do okay. If I go much beyond that for an extended period, I'll start breaking down. And that's a challenge. But it's this idea that you're creating a stress on your body and then allowing it to respond and get stronger, which is why if you're a novice runner or just starting out, or have not run at all, you've got to be very, very careful as you slowly bring it up. And it's different if you're 15 years old versus 45 years old. That can be very, very challenging as you get older, because your body doesn't recover quite as fast.
Yeah, I'm getting sick of hearing that. It's a fact of life, but I don't have to accept it. Well, we're winding up the show, and I wanted to give you a chance to just kind of give some last-minute thoughts about the marathon. Why you do it, why people should do it, what it means to you, I guess.
Well, I enjoy endurance sports, and I also do endurance biking. In fact, I do more of that now than running, do some training for both. And I enjoy the sort of the mental and physical challenge of doing long things. A marathon's a wonderful place to see a city. In fact, I'll sometimes, if I'm in an area I'll match that I need to be at for some reason, I'll match it with the marathon just so I can really see the best of of an area. But of course, the Oklahoma City Marathon is special. It really is. I think I've done it 8 or 9 times, and it's just amazing to get out there. The incredible feeling, the meaning. It's something that is such a part of our community that you know, to me, it's just an important thing to do. So my motivations for next Sunday or a week from Sunday are different than what I typically might do.
Sure. Well, I hope that everybody enjoyed this talk that we had today, and maybe picked up a few tips if you're running next week. And if you are, good for you. If you're not, good for you too. Please come out and cheer on everybody, and come out to the Marathon Expo next Friday and Saturday. That's OU Medicine is one of the sponsors for that, so we're pretty proud of that event as well. And that wraps up today's show, but I did want to let you know, make sure to check in next week. Dr. Andy Wagner will be here. He's an obstetrician gynecologist, and he will be talking about explaining what prenatal tests mean, and I think that'll be fascinating to hear. So check in next week, 10 o'clock. See you then.